The metallic beasts circled the platform like sharks smelling blood. Their red eyes tracked every movement the humans made while their claws scraped against the metal floor, with sounds like knives on glass. Jake could see intelligence in those glowing eyes, a predator's patience that spoke of countless successful hunts. The largest beast, clearly the pack leader, stood nearly 4 feet tall at the shoulder. Its metal hide was scarred from battles with Zephyrian warriors, proof that it had killed some of the galaxy's most feared fighters. Now it was studying 12 soft pink creatures who looked like they had never seen real combat. "Spread out, but stay within supporting distance," Jake called to his team as he gripped a piece of broken metal pipe. "Don't let them isolate any of us." Amy had found a length of cable and was testing its strength. "Jake, these things are built for speed and power. We can't fight them directly." Lisa was backing toward the edge of the platform while watching the beasts' movement patterns. "They're pack hunters. Look how they're positioning themselves to cut off escape routes." Ryan had picked up what looked like a control panel that had been damaged in the earlier trials. "If I can get this working, maybe I can interfere with their systems. They might be partially mechanical." The crowd in the stands was on its feet, roaring with anticipation. This was what they had come to see. The weak creatures would finally be torn apart by proper predators. The pack leader made its move first, leaping toward Jake with claws extended. Jake dove to the side and rolled, feeling the wind from the beast's passage. Where he had been standing, claw marks now gouged deep scratches in the metal floor. "They're fast, but they attack in straight lines," Jake shouted as he scrambled to his feet. "Use that against them." The second beast went after Lisa, who used her smaller size to duck under a platform support beam. The beast's momentum carried it past her and she struck at its rear legs with her improvised weapon. Amy was using her cable like a whip, keeping 2 beasts at distance while backing toward a corner where they could not surround her. "The metal on their hides is armor, but it has joints. Look for weak spots." Ryan was frantically working on his salvage control panel while dodging claws. "Almost got it. These things have some kind of neural interface. If I can disrupt it." A shower of sparks erupted from his device and one of the beasts suddenly stumbled, shaking its head like it was confused. The crowd noticed immediately and the cheering faltered. "What did you do?" Lisa called as she continued to dodge her attacker. "Electromagnetic pulse," Ryan yelled back. But it only worked for a few seconds. Their shielding adapts too quickly. Jake found himself face to face with the pack leader again. The beast was learning from their first encounter, approaching more carefully this time. Jake backed toward a section of damaged wall, trying to look trapped and helpless. The beast lunged and Jake dropped flat, letting the creature sail over him to crash into the wall. Before it could recover, Jake brought his metal pipe down on one of its rear legs, aiming for what looked like a joint in the armor. The crowd gasped as the pack leader limped backward, favoring the damaged leg. No one expected the weak human to actually hurt one of the hunting beasts. "The joints," Jake shouted. "Hit the joints where the armor connects." Amy changed her tactics, using her cable to tangle one beast's legs while it was moving. When it fell, she struck at the exposed joint areas with a piece of debris. The beast's roar of pain echoed through the arena. Lisa had climbed onto one of the platform supports, using her height advantage to strike down at a beast trying to reach her. They're getting frustrated. They're not used to prey that fights back intelligently. The tide was turning, but slowly. The humans were learning faster than the beast could adapt. Every attack taught them something new about their enemy's capabilities and weaknesses. Ryan got his device working again, and managed to disorient 2 beasts at once. "I'm learning their frequency patterns. Each pulse works better than the last one." The pack leader decided to change tactics. Instead of attacking directly, it began herding the humans toward one corner of the platform. The other beasts followed its lead, working together to trap their prey. "They're trying to corner us," Amy realized. "Once we're backed against the wall, they can attack all at once." Jake looked around desperately. The platform was large, but not infinite. The beasts were patient and intelligent enough to use coordinated tactics. The other platforms, Lisa pointed to the other levels of the arena course they had completed earlier. "We can lead them through the obstacles we already cleared." "Brilliant," Jake said. Everyone moved toward the bridges. "Stay together, but be ready to split up once we reach the obstacle course." The humans began a fighting retreat toward the bridge connections. The beasts followed, thinking they had their prey on the run. When they reached the narrow bridges, Jake's plan became clear. Single file across. The bridges won't support their weight if they try to follow more than one at a time. The first beast tried to follow them across a bridge, and the structure immediately began to sway under its weight. The creature was forced to move slowly and carefully, giving the humans time to prepare for its arrival. Amy was waiting on the far side with her cable. When the beast reached the end of the bridge, she tangled its front legs and sent it tumbling off the platform. It hit the arena floor 30 feet below with a crash that shook the entire structure. The crowd was completely silent now. The hunting beasts were supposed to be unstoppable killers. Watching them get outmaneuvered by weak prey creatures was like watching the laws of nature get turned upside down. "One down," Ryan called as he worked on his device. But the others are learning too. They're not going to fall for the same trick twice. The remaining beasts were more cautious now, testing each bridge before crossing. But the humans had more tricks prepared. Lisa had noticed that the climbing walls had handholds designed for Zephyrian claws. They can climb better than us, but they can't fit through the smaller gaps. She led two beasts into a section where the handholds were spaced for much larger creatures. While they struggled to climb efficiently, she used maintenance passages designed for smaller repair robots. Jake and Amy worked together to trap another beast in one of the mechanical obstacle sections. While Jake distracted it from the front, Amy climbed above and dropped a heavy piece of equipment on its head. Ryan's electromagnetic weapon was getting more effective with each use. He managed to completely disable one beast's motor functions, leaving it paralyzed on a high platform. The pack leader was the last one standing, and it was furious. Its pack was defeated or scattered, and it was facing prey that should have been helpless. Jake stood alone on the main platform facing the creature. "Come on then. Let's finish this." The beast charged with everything it had, claws extended and jaws wide. Jake waited until the last possible second, then dove aside and grabbed one of its rear legs as it passed. Using the creature's own momentum against it, he guided its charge toward the edge of the platform. The beast tried to stop, but its claws could not find purchase on the smooth metal surface. It went over the edge and crashed to the arena floor far below, landing next to its packmate. Both creatures were alive but clearly defeated and in no condition to continue fighting. The arena was completely silent. Tens of thousands of Zephyrians stared down at 12 humans who had just accomplished the impossible. They had defeated the hunting beasts without losing a single member of their team. Kethavar stood frozen on his platform, his glowing eyes wide with disbelief. The hunting beasts had killed hundreds of warriors over the years. They were supposed to be the perfect test of combat ability. "How?" he whispered, but his voice carried clearly in the silence. "How did they do this?" Jake looked up at the war prime and smiled. "We used our heads instead of our muscles." The crowd erupted in confused noise. Some aliens were demanding explanations while others were arguing about what they had witnessed. A few were even placing bets on what the humans might accomplish in the next trial. But Jake could see the change in their captors' eyes. The Zephyrians were no longer looking at the humans like amusing pets or helpless prey. There was something new in their expressions, something that looked almost like respect. And in the eyes of War Prime Kethvar, Jake saw something even more interesting. For the first time since their capture, he saw fear. The massive doors opened and Jake felt his breath catch in his throat. The arena stretched out before them like a metal canyon with walls that reached up so high, he could barely see the top. Thousands of aliens filled the stands, their crystal skin reflecting the bright lights as they roared with excitement. The sound was like standing inside a landslide. Kethvar stood on a platform high above the arena floor. His voice boomed through speakers that made the ground shake. "Behold the fragile creatures from the outer rim. Today we will see how long these soft pink things can survive in our trials." The crowd erupted in grinding laughter that echoed off the walls. Jake could see aliens pointing at them and making gestures that clearly meant they expected the humans to die quickly and badly. "Stay together," Jake whispered to his crew as they were pushed onto the arena floor. "Remember what we talked about." The arena floor was covered in strange markings and what looked like trapdoors. Jake could see weapon emplacements built into the walls and ceiling. This place was designed to kill even the mighty Zephyrians, so humans would not be expected to last long at all. "The first trial is simple," Kethvar announced. "Navigate the maze while avoiding our automated defenses. The path to survival lies before you." A section of the floor began to rise, creating walls that formed a complex maze. At the same time, weapon turrets emerged from hidden panels in the ceiling. Red targeting beams began sweeping back and forth across the maze entrance. The crowd cheered as they waited for the humans to panic and run blindly into the weapons. That was clearly what every other species had done in the past. Instead, Jake held up his hand and his crew stopped moving. "Lisa, what do you see?" Lisa watched the targeting beams for several seconds. "There's a pattern. The beams sweep in a sequence, not randomly. Look, it repeats every 30 seconds. Ryan was studying the turrets themselves. Those are motion sensors. They're designed to track fast movement. If we move slowly during the gaps, we might be able to avoid detection." Amy pointed to different sections of the maze. "The walls aren't all the same height. Some are lower than others. We could climb over if we needed to." The crowd was getting restless. They wanted to see the humans run and die. Instead, they were watching them stand still and talk. "What are they doing?" one alien asked another in the stands. "I think they are afraid to move," came the reply. "They know they will die, so they freeze like prey animals." Jake smiled at that. "Okay, everyone, here's what we're going to do. Lisa and Ryan, you take point and watch for the pattern changes. Amy and I will watch the rear. Everyone else, single file between us." They began moving through the maze entrance during one of the gaps in the targeting beams. The turrets swiveled toward them but did not fire. The humans were moving too slowly and carefully to trigger the motion sensors. The crowd grew quieter as they realized the humans were not dying immediately. This was not what usually happened in the first trial. Halfway through the maze, the pattern changed. New turrets emerged and the timing became more complex. Jake could hear the crowd getting excited again, thinking this would finally kill the weak creatures. "The pattern is different, but it's still a pattern," Lisa called back. "Give me a minute to figure it out." Ryan was looking at the wall panels. "Jake, these walls are not solid. They're mechanical. I think I can access the control systems." "Do it," Jake said as they took cover behind a wall section. Ryan pulled out his multi-tool and began working on a panel. Within minutes, he had it open and was studying the wiring inside. "This is incredible technology, but the basic principles are the same as our systems." Amy kept watch while Ryan worked. "The crowd is getting angry. They're not used to their entertainment lasting this long." Ryan made several connections and suddenly, one section of turrets stopped moving. "Got it. I've created a safe corridor through the next section." The humans moved quickly through Ryan's corridor while the crowd fell completely silent. This was not supposed to be possible. The trials were designed to challenge Zephyrian warriors, not be solved by weak prey animals. "How are they doing this?" Kethvar demanded from his platform. His voice carried clearly in the sudden quiet. The humans reached the center of the maze where they found the exit blocked by a puzzle lock. The device was covered in Zephyrian symbols and seemed to require some kind of code. Lisa studied the symbols while the others kept watch. "These aren't random. They're mathematical. Look, this symbol appears in a sequence that follows a pattern." "Can you solve it?" Jake asked. "Maybe. Human brains are good at pattern recognition. It might take a few minutes." The crowd was getting restless again. Aliens were shouting for the trial to continue, for more weapons to be activated. They wanted to see death and destruction, not problem solving. Lisa worked on the puzzle while Ryan examined the mechanism. "The symbols represent numbers in base 12 instead of base 10 like we use. If I convert the pattern..." The lock clicked open and the exit door began to rise. The crowd exploded in confused noise. Aliens were arguing with each other about what they had just seen. Some were demanding the trial be stopped and restarted. Others wanted to see what would happen next. Kethvar stood frozen on his platform. In thousands of years of trials, no species had ever solved the maze puzzle. Most never even reached it. Warriors usually tried to smash through the walls or fight the turrets directly. "Continue to the next trial," he finally announced, his voice lacking its earlier confidence. The humans found themselves in a new area of the arena. This section had multiple levels connected by narrow bridges and climbing walls. Mechanical obstacles moved back and forth, designed to knock climbers off the bridges. "This is a test of physical ability," Amy said as she studied the course. "They want to see if we can climb and balance like their warriors." Jake looked at his crew. They were all in good shape, but nothing compared to the 9-foot-tall crystalline aliens who could probably leap between the platforms. "We don't try to match their physical abilities," he said. "We use our advantages instead." Ryan was already examining the mechanical obstacles. "These move on tracks. If I can jam the mechanisms, we can create a stable path." Lisa pointed to the bridge supports. The weight distribution is designed for much heavier creatures. We're so much lighter that we can probably use paths they can't. Amy nodded. And we can work together. They're used to individual trials, but there's nothing stopping us from helping each other. The humans began the climbing trial with a completely different approach than any previous species. Instead of trying to power through the obstacles, they disabled them. Instead of competing with each other for the best path, they worked as a team. Ryan jammed 3 of the moving obstacles, while Amy used her pilot training to guide others across narrow sections. Lisa calculated the safest routes while Jake coordinated the entire team. When one human had trouble with a climb, 2 others helped pull him up. When the bridges were too narrow for safe passage, they formed human chains to ensure no one fell. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the humans systematically conquered a trial that was designed to test individual physical prowess. They were using teamwork and intelligence to overcome every obstacle. Impossible, Kethvar muttered as he watched the last human reach the final platform. They are weak. They should not be able to do this. His advisor leaned closer. War Prime, perhaps these creatures are not as helpless as we believed. Kethvar's glowing eyes narrowed as he stared down at the humans. They were celebrating their success by helping each other and checking for injuries. No Zephyrian warrior would show such concern for others during a trial. Release the hunting beasts, he ordered. Let us see how they handle a real threat. The arena floor opened and 6 creatures emerged. They looked like metallic wolves with razor-sharp claws and glowing red eyes. Each beast was designed to hunt and kill Zephyrian warriors. Against humans, they should be absolutely unstoppable. The crowd roared with bloodthirsty excitement. Finally, they would see the weak creatures torn apart as nature intended. Jake looked at the approaching beasts and felt his heart racing. This was different from puzzles and climbing courses. These things wanted to kill them. Weapons, he called to his team. Find anything we can use as weapons. The humans scattered across the platform, grabbing pieces of debris and broken equipment. They had no armor, no training in combat, and no experience fighting alien predators. But they had something the Zephyrians could not understand. They had the ability to think under pressure and adapt to any situation. The beasts were about to learn that the most dangerous predator was not always the strongest one. The alarm screamed through the small ship as Jake Morrison watched the massive shadow block out the stars. The UES Wanderer was barely the size of a fighter compared to the thing that had just dropped out of hyperspace in front of them. Jake gripped his captain's chair as the ship shook from some kind of energy beam that locked onto their hull. What the hell is that thing? Amy Foster whispered from the pilot seat. Her hands moved over the controls, but nothing responded. The ship was completely dead in space. Lisa Park looked up from her science station with wide eyes. It's huge, Jake. The readings are off the charts. That ship is at least 10 times bigger than anything in our fleet. Ryan Bell was already pulling panels off the wall, trying to get their engines back online. Whatever hit us fried everything. We're sitting ducks out here. Jake stood up and walked to the main screen. The alien ship looked like it was made of black crystal and metal. Strange lights pulsed along its hull in patterns he had never seen before. Everyone stay calm. We knew this might happen when we signed up for deep space exploration. The ship started to shake again and Amy grabbed her controls. Something's pulling us in. We're caught in some kind of tractor beam. How many crew do we have aboard? Jake asked as he watched their small ship get dragged toward a massive opening in the alien vessel. 12 total, including us, Lisa said as she checked her tablet. The others are probably scared out of their minds right now. Ryan slammed his fist against the wall. I can't get anything working. Whatever they did to us was surgical. They knew exactly how to shut us down without destroying us. Jake felt his stomach drop as their ship passed through some kind of energy field and into the alien vessel. The space around them was enormous. He could see other ships floating in the same area, but they looked different from anything human. Some were twisted metal shapes while others seemed to be made of organic materials. Look at the size of this place, Amy said as she stared out the window. This isn't just a ship. It's like a flying city. Heavy footsteps echoed through their hull as something large moved around outside. Jake could hear metal being cut and torn. They're coming aboard. Everyone needs to stay together and follow my lead. The main door to their bridge exploded inward and the first alien stepped through. Jake had seen a lot of things in his years of space travel, but nothing had prepared him for this. The creature stood almost 9 feet tall and looked like it was made of living crystal and metal. Its skin seemed to be some kind of natural armor that reflected the light in strange ways. When it moved, Jake could hear the sound of stone grinding against stone. More of the aliens came through the door. Each one carried weapons that looked like they could cut through their ship's hull. Their eyes glowed with a cold blue light as they looked at the humans. The largest alien stepped forward and spoke in a voice that sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. "I am War Prime Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You are now prisoners of the Dominion's Edge." Jake stepped forward with his hands raised. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Wanderer. We're explorers, not soldiers. We mean no harm to you or your people." Kethvar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Explorers. How amusing. Look at these soft pink creatures. They have no armor, no claws, no natural weapons at all." One of the other aliens poked Ryan in the chest with one finger, and Ryan stumbled backward. "They break so easily. How did such weak things ever leave their home world?" "Sir," Lisa said quietly to Jake, "their muscle density is incredible. They're probably 10 times stronger than any human." Kethvar heard her and turned his glowing eyes toward her. "You study biology, little creature. Then you understand how pathetic your species truly is. We have conquered 17 star systems. We are the apex predators of this galaxy." Amy tried to step protectively in front of Lisa, but another alien easily pushed her aside. "Don't hurt her. We'll cooperate with whatever you want." "Hurt her," Kethvar said with that grinding laugh. "We could crush any of you with one hand. But that would be wasteful. You are far too amusing to simply kill." The aliens began herding the humans out of their ship and through the massive corridors of the alien vessel. Jake tried to memorize the route they were taking, but everything looked the same. The walls were covered in the same crystal and metal patterns and strange symbols that meant nothing to him. "Where are you taking us?" Jake asked as they walked. "To holding cells while we decide what to do with you," Kethvar said. "My people enjoy games and contests of strength. We have great arenas where warriors prove their worth in combat." Ryan looked at Jake with worry in his eyes. "You want us to fight?" "Fight." Kethvar stopped walking and turned to face them. "You cannot fight. You are prey animals, but you will provide entertainment for our people. They have never seen creatures so fragile try to survive in our trials." The holding cells were exactly what Jake expected, metal bars and stone walls with barely enough room for all 12 humans to sit down. The aliens locked them inside and left 2 guards to watch them. Jake gathered his crew in the corner farthest from the guards. "Listen carefully. They think we're weak and helpless. That might be the only advantage we have." "They're not wrong, Jake," Ryan whispered. "Did you see how easily they handled us? One of them could probably fight our entire crew at the same time." Lisa shook her head. "Physical strength isn't everything. They've been so dominant for so long that they might not expect us to think our way out of problems." Amy nodded. "They see us as toys or pets. They're not taking us seriously as a threat." "Good," Jake said. "Let them underestimate us. While they're laughing at how weak we are, we'll be learning everything we can about them and their technology." Over the next few hours, more aliens came to stare at the humans like they were animals in a zoo. They pointed and made their grinding laugh sounds while discussing how long the humans might survive in their games. "The soft ones will not last even one trial," one alien said to another. "Their bones break too easily. Perhaps we should pad the arena floor," another replied. "Otherwise, they will die too quickly and spoil the entertainment." Jake watched and listened to everything. The aliens were confident to the point of arrogance. They had been the strongest species they had ever encountered, and it had made them careless. They spoke freely in front of the humans because they assumed these weak creatures could never pose any real threat. Lisa was studying the guards and their equipment. Ryan was examining the cell walls and door mechanisms. Amy was listening to the sounds of the ship around them, trying to understand how it operated. When the lights dimmed to indicate night cycle, Jake gathered his people again. "Tomorrow they're probably going to put us in their arena. We need to be ready for anything." "Ready for what?" Ryan asked. "We don't have any weapons or armor. We don't know anything about fighting." "We have something they don't expect," Jake said quietly. "We have 12 minds working together. They're used to individual combat and brute force. We can adapt and improvise in ways they've never seen." The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that physical weakness meant total weakness. They were about to learn that humans had survived and thrived on a dangerous world, not because they were the strongest, but because they were the smartest. Tomorrow would be the beginning of their education. Back in their cell that night, Jake gathered his crew in the corner farthest from the guards. The Zephyrians had been different since the arena trials ended. They watched the humans more carefully now and spoke in hushed tones when they thought the prisoners could not hear them. "They're scared," Lisa whispered as she bandaged a cut on Ryan's arm. "Did you see how they looked at us after we beat the hunting beasts?" Amy nodded while keeping an eye on the guards. The whole crowd went quiet. I don't think anyone expected us to survive, let alone win. Ryan was working on something small in his hands, keeping it hidden from view. I managed to grab some components from the arena. If I can put together a basic scanner, I might be able to map their security systems. "What did you hear them saying?" Jake asked Lisa, who had been listening to the guard conversations. "They're planning to execute us tomorrow," she said quietly. "Kethavar doesn't want to risk us in any more trials. He called us an unpredictable threat in his report to the High Command." Jake felt his stomach drop. They had survived the trials only to face death anyway. "Then we move tonight. Ryan, what do you have for us?" Ryan showed them a small device he had assembled from arena components. "Basic electromagnetic scanner. I've been mapping the power grid in this section of the ship. There are some interesting weak points." Amy leaned closer to study the device. "Can you cause a power failure?" "Better than that," Ryan smiled. "I can cause a cascading failure that will take down multiple systems at once. Life support, artificial gravity, containment fields, the works." Lisa looked worried. "Won't that hurt innocent people on the ship?" "The ship has backup systems," Ryan explained. "I'm not trying to destroy anything permanently, just cause enough chaos to cover our escape." Jake studied the guard positions. "How long will we have once you trigger the failure?" "Maybe 10 minutes before they get backup power online. 15 if we're lucky." "That's not enough time to fight our way to the hangar," Amy said. "This ship is huge and we don't know the layout." Jake had been thinking about this problem since their capture. "We don't fight our way anywhere. We use the same approach that worked in the arena. We outthink them instead of overpowering them." Over the next hour, Jake outlined his plan. It was risky and depended on the Zephyrians reacting exactly as he predicted, but it was their only chance. When the lights dimmed for the night cycle, Ryan activated his device. The effect was immediate and devastating. The lights went out, the artificial gravity fluctuated, and emergency alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The cell door locks failed along with every other electronic system in their section. Jake and his crew slipped out of their cell and into the darkened corridor as confused Zephyrian voices echoed from everywhere at once. "This way," Amy whispered, using her pilot training to navigate in the dark. She led them through corridors filled with panicking aliens who were too busy dealing with the emergency to notice 12 escaped prisoners. Ryan's cascading failure was working better than expected. As they moved through the ship, they could hear systems failing in chain reactions throughout multiple decks. "The hangar bay is too obvious," Jake said as they reached a major intersection. "They'll be guarding it as soon as they get organized. We need a different approach." Lisa had been studying the ship's layout during their time in the cell. "What about the maintenance sections?" "Every ship has repair bays and secondary launch points." They found a maintenance access tunnel and began working their way toward the outer hull. The tunnel was designed for smaller repair robots, so the humans could move through it easily while any pursuing Zephyrians would have trouble following. Emergency lighting came on as they crawled through the tunnels, but it was dim and flickering. Ryan's sabotage had damaged more systems than he had originally planned. "There," Amy pointed ahead to where the tunnel opened into a larger space. "That looks like a repair bay." They emerged into a workshop area filled with equipment and partially assembled spacecraft. But more importantly, they found 3 small Zephyrian shuttles that looked ready for flight. "Can you fly one of these?" Jake asked Amy as they approached the nearest shuttle. Amy studied the control layout. "The basic principles should be the same. Thrust steering, navigation. Give me a few minutes to figure out their interface." Ryan was already working on the bay doors. "These systems are isolated from the main ship network. I can open the doors, but it's going to take time." While Amy and Ryan worked, Jake and Lisa kept watch for pursuing Zephyrians. They could hear search teams moving through other parts of the ship, but the aliens seemed to be focusing on the main corridors and hangar bays. "Jake," Lisa called softly, "look at this." She had found a computer terminal that was still functioning despite the power failures. The screen showed star charts and navigation data that covered dozens of star systems. "This is incredible," she whispered, as she downloaded the information to a portable device. "They have detailed maps of the entire region, including human colonies that we didn't know existed." Amy got the shuttle powered up just as Ryan managed to crack the bay door controls. "Everyone aboard. This is going to be loud and obvious once we launch." The shuttle was cramped with 12 humans aboard, but it was designed for rapid deployment and could handle the load. Amy's hands moved over the alien controls with growing confidence. "Here we go," she said as she engaged the engines. The shuttle burst out of the repair bay and into open space just as Zephyrian fighters began launching from the main hangar. But Jake's plan was working exactly as he had hoped. "They're not chasing us," Lisa observed as she watched the fighters head in different directions. "Because they don't think we stole a ship," Jake explained. "They think we're still hiding somewhere on board. By the time they realize we're gone, we'll be too far away to catch." Amy pushed the shuttle's engines to their limits as they raced away from the massive Zephyrian vessel. Behind them, the Dominion's Edge was still dealing with cascading system failures and the chaos of the search operation. "Where are we going?" Ryan asked as he tried to make sense of the alien navigation system. Lisa pulled up the star chart she had stolen. "There's a human colony about 6 light-years from here. If we can reach their communication range, we can warn Earth about the Zephyrian Empire." But as they flew away from their captors, Jake was thinking about more than just escape. The data Lisa had gathered showed that the Zephyrians had been watching human space for years. They knew the locations of every major colony and military base. They're planning an invasion, he realized. That's why they were so interested in testing human capabilities. They wanted to know what kind of resistance to expect. Amy checked their fuel levels and engine status. "This shuttle can make it to the colony, but just barely. We'll be running on fumes when we arrive." "It doesn't matter," Jake said as he watched the Zephyrian ship shrink to a point of light behind them. "We have information that could save millions of human lives." Ryan was studying the stolen navigation data. "Jake, this is bigger than just an invasion. Look at these charts. The Zephyrians control 17 star systems, and they're planning to expand into at least 6 more, including the entire human sector." The magnitude of what they had discovered was staggering. Humanity was facing an enemy that controlled resources from multiple star systems and had technology far beyond anything in the human fleet. But Jake remembered the fear in Kethvar's eyes when the humans had defeated the hunting beasts. The Zephyrians were powerful and advanced, but they were also arrogant and overconfident. "They made one mistake," he said as he looked at his exhausted crew. "They let us see how they think and how they fight. They showed us their technology and their tactics." Lisa nodded slowly. "And we showed them that humans don't think like any other species they've encountered." "Exactly," Jake smiled grimly. "They're expecting to fight an enemy that matches strength with strength and technology with technology. They're not prepared for an enemy that adapts and improvises." Amy engaged the hyperdrive and the shuttle jumped to faster than light speed. Behind them, the Zephyrian Empire continued its preparations for conquest, unaware that their greatest advantage had just become their greatest weakness. War Prime. Kethvar would eventually realize that 12 weak humans had escaped with detailed intelligence about Zephyrian military capabilities. But by then it would be too late to stop the warning from reaching human space. The war was coming whether humanity wanted it or not. But thanks to Jake Morrison and his crew, it would not be the one-sided slaughter the Zephyrians were expecting. The stolen Zephyrian shuttle dropped out of hyperspace near the human colony of New Haven, with its engines sputtering and fuel tanks nearly empty. Amy fought to keep the alien craft stable as warning lights flashed across the control panel. "There," Lisa pointed to a blue-green world ahead of them. "That's got to be New Haven. I'm picking up human communication signals." Jake activated the shuttle's communication system and broadcast on all human frequencies. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the exploration vessel UES Wanderer. We have critical intelligence about an imminent alien threat. Please respond." The reply came immediately from the colony's orbital defense station. "Unidentified vessel, you are flying an unknown ship design and approaching restricted space. Identify yourself immediately or we will open fire." "This is going to be interesting," Ryan muttered as he watched human fighters moving to intercept them. Jake kept talking into the communicator. "Colony defense, we are 12 human survivors who escaped from an alien empire called the Zephyrians. We have intelligence that indicates they are planning to invade human space. We need to speak with your commanding officer immediately." There was a long pause before the response came. Captain Morrison, maintain your current course and prepare to be boarded. Any hostile action will result in your destruction. Amy guided the shuttle to the space station's docking bay where armed security teams were waiting. Jake could see the suspicion and confusion on their faces as 12 humans climbed out of an obviously alien spacecraft. Commander Kate Sullivan was a career military officer who had seen her share of strange situations, but nothing quite like this. She listened with growing alarm as Jake briefed her on everything they had learned about the Zephyrian Empire. 17 star systems, she repeated as she studied the stolen navigation data. And they've been watching our colonies for years. Lisa spread out the detailed star charts on Sullivan's desk. They know the location of every major human settlement and military base. This wasn't random exploration. It was systematic intelligence gathering. How long do we have? Sullivan asked as she began calculating distances and travel times. Ryan had been analyzing the Zephyrian ship designs and technology levels. Based on what we saw, their fleet could reach Earth in about 6 months if they launch immediately. But they might take longer to organize a full invasion force. 6 months to prepare for war against an enemy that has conquered 17 star systems, Sullivan said grimly. Our entire fleet couldn't stand against that kind of power. Amy had been thinking about the tactical situation during their escape. Commander, they have overwhelming advantages in technology and numbers, but they also have weaknesses that we can exploit. Such as? Sullivan asked. Jake leaned forward. They're overconfident to the point of arrogance. They've never faced an enemy that thinks like humans do. Every species they've conquered has tried to match them strength for strength. They expect linear tactics and direct confrontation, Lisa added. When we used adaptive thinking and teamwork in their arena, it completely confused them. They had no idea how to respond. Sullivan studied the tactical data they had gathered. You're talking about asymmetric warfare. Hit-and-run tactics, sabotage, turning their own technology against them. Exactly, Jake said. We can't beat them in a straight fight, but we don't have to. We just need to make conquest too expensive and difficult for them to maintain. Within hours, urgent messages were racing toward Earth and every human colony through the communication network. The warning carried complete intelligence about Zephyrian capabilities, star charts showing their territory, and most importantly, detailed analysis of their weaknesses. Admiral Robert Kane received the intelligence briefing at Earth Fleet Headquarters and immediately called an emergency session of the Colonial Defense Council. The holographic display showed the massive scope of the Zephyrian Empire compared to human space. We're outnumbered at least 50 to 1, Admiral Kane announced to the assembled commanders. Conventional military response is not an option. But the human military had always been good at finding unconventional solutions to impossible problems. Within days, new strategies were being developed based on the intelligence from Jake's crew. Instead of building more battleships, human engineers began designing smaller, faster vessels that could strike quickly and disappear. Instead of fortifying colonies, evacuation and mobile defense plans were created. Most importantly, human scientists began analyzing the Zephyrian technology that Ryan had recorded during their escape. The aliens' computer systems were incredibly advanced, but they followed logical principles that human programmers could understand, and exploit Dr. Lisa Park found herself appointed as the head of the new xenobiology division, tasked with understanding alien psychology and behavior patterns. Her reports on Zephyrian thinking processes became required reading for every human commander. Ryan Bell became the leader of the technical analysis group, reverse engineering alien technology and finding ways to turn it against its creators. His work on electromagnetic warfare would prove crucial in the coming conflict. Amy Foster joined the new Fast Attack Squadron, training pilots to fly the hit and run missions that would become humanity's primary tactic against the Zephyrian fleet, and Jake Morrison found himself promoted to admiral and put in charge of the entire human defense strategy. His experience fighting the aliens in their own arena made him uniquely qualified to plan humanity's survival. Meanwhile, in the Zephyrian Empire, War Prime Kethvar stood before the High Command, trying to explain how 12 weak humans had escaped from his flagship with detailed intelligence about their military capabilities. He allowed prey animals to defeat our hunting beasts and steal one of our shuttles, High Commander Zarthek said with disgust. Perhaps these humans are not as weak as you believed. They are physically weak, Kethvar insisted. but they think in ways we have never encountered. They adapt and improvise faster than any species we have faced. Then we will crush them before they can adapt, Zarthek declared. Launch the invasion fleet immediately. Show these humans what happens when they defy the Zephyrian Empire. But as the Zephyrian war fleet prepared to launch, they were making the same mistake they had made in the arena. They were planning to fight the war they wanted to fight, not the war that humans would actually give them. 6 months later, when the massive Zephyrian fleet arrived at the edge of human space, they found something they had not expected. Instead of fixed fortifications and massed battle fleets, they found empty space and abandoned colonies. The humans were not where the Zephyrians expected them to be, and they were not fighting the way the Zephyrians expected them to fight. The first Zephyrian battle group to enter human space found themselves under attack by small, fast human ships that appeared without warning, struck hard, and vanished before the aliens could respond. When the Zephyrians pursued, they found only empty space and electronic interference. Human saboteurs had infiltrated Zephyrian computer systems using the technical knowledge that Ryan had gathered. Critical systems failed at crucial moments. Communication networks suffered mysterious disruptions, and navigation computers provided false information. Most frustrating of all, the humans refused to engage in the kind of direct battle that Zephyrian tactics were designed for. Every time the aliens tried to force a confrontation, the humans melted away like smoke. High Commander Zarthek found himself fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. His overwhelming technological advantage meant nothing when he could not find targets to use it against. "Where are they?" he demanded as his fleet chased phantom signals through empty star systems. "How can an entire species simply disappear?" War Prime Kethvar could have told him. The humans were doing exactly what they had done in the arena. They were not trying to overpower their enemies. They were outthinking them. The war that was supposed to last weeks stretched into months as human resistance proved far more effective than anyone had predicted. The Zephyrian Empire found itself fighting a conflict unlike anything in their long history of conquest. And in the command center of the human resistance, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. The aliens had made the mistake of underestimating their enemy, and now they were paying the price. The fragile creatures had torn through their ranks just as the title had promised. Not with claws and fangs, but with something far more dangerous. They had used their minds.